Right, okay, so let's look at this lab. So in this lab, what we're going to do is use Kali, and we'll use Metasploitable, and we're going to test from Kali to the Metasploitable instance. Okay, so I'll just get started up. Okay, so in the first part, I'm going to be using Kali. So I just power that one on, and just start that one up, and we should be good to go. And then what I'll do is to open up the Metasploitable. We just power that one on. It's already powered on, so we just open it up. And there we are. Okay, so let's see if we can just run the two beside each other like this. There we go. Right, so okay, so there's our Kali instance. Just log in. There. And then over here, we just get logged in. Okay, so we'll only need to find out what the IP address is over here. Most of the other stuff we'll do is from a Kali instance. So we're at 10.200.0.47. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing we'll do over here is to have a look to see what our IP address is. And we're at 10.200.206. So the first thing that we're going to look at is to look at a backdoor in FTP. So the VS FTP server had an intentional backdoor put into it that was meant to be there for the developer to be able to get access, but unfortunately it's been found. So with this, what it is that it's an FTP server, very popular FTP server, and if the user puts in a username with a smiley face at the end, then it creates a backdoor on port 6200. Okay, so we use Telnet to be able to access our FTP service, as we've done with other labs. So we want to be able to go here, and we're going to be contacting the FTP service. So perhaps the first thing we should do is to run nmap against our Metasploitable instance, just to see that we're running FTP and so on. Okay, so there we are, and we can see there is FTP running. It's running SSH and Telnet and things like that, so a whole lot of other things that we can obviously access. Okay, so this version has the VSFTP version that has the backdoor in it, so we should be able to have a look at the vulnerability and get it set up. Okay, so there we are. Okay, so we'll use Telnet, and it's 10.200.0.47. and it's on port 21. Okay, so we'll go ahead, and so I'll just create Bill as a username, and then I'll put smiley face. There we go. Okay, and password, I put none there. Okay, so that's fine. Oops, sorry, I need to put user in. Bill smiley face. And the password is none. There we go. So it just sits there. So what we do is press Control and then the square bracket, and then we press return, and we go back here, and then we quit. Okay, so everything's fine, but it's actually opened up a port for us. So we'll do the same thing again, and we should find that when we go back that we actually have a connection. Oh, look at that. So ID, so ID roots in there, so we can do some shell scripting here. There's our present working directory, and we'll have a look at the operating system type. There we go, and we'll have a little look at the machine type. Okay, so a complete backdoor onto the onto the machine. Okay, it's difficult to get, so we just do our escape again. Okay, so if you get stuck, then it's just the control and then the square brackets gets you out. Okay, so that's our first backdoor, and you can see that just by putting the smiley face, we could actually connect and get a shell connection to the machine. So the next one we'll actually have a look at is to do with the Irc Daemon, which runs on 6667, and we'll see that we're able to create a backdoor for that. Okay, so the first thing we'll do is we'll just open up our shell there, our metasploitable instance. Okay, and this is the part of the lab that we're going to do. So I'm just going to cheat here. I'm just going to copy that, and I'm going to just open up a command prompt, and I'm going to make things easy for myself. I'm just going to really go ahead and just paste this in from here, one line at a time. Okay, so the address that we have for our metasploitable instance, as we've seen, is 10.200.0.47. Okay, so that's fine. Okay, and then we'll just go ahead and we'll just paste that in. You can type it in, of course. Okay, so it's delivering the exploit and getting all set up. Okay, so there we go. PS. Okay, so you can actually see that we have a shell into the machine. It's a password file. And let's see if we can get access to the shadow file. There we go. Okay, so complete root access that we've actually gained purely from exploiting the IRC service there. Okay, so we can basically do anything that we really want here. All our commands are there. We can move around and we can actually have a look. There's our sys folder and so on, and there is etc. Okay, so remember, so it's control square brackets. Let's get out. We just come out of the session there. Okay, so for the next one, there is a service that can be run, which allows us to be able to create the compilation of C programs on a large scale basis. So what we'll do is that we'll see if we can exploit this service in the same way that we've done with the other ones. Okay, so that was our example there. And you can see how that actually worked for the IRC daemon. Next thing, what we're going to do is that we're going to have a look at this distributed CC. We're just going to paste that in, and I may as well just remember you do use your show options to be able to the options that you have to set, and then you've got to do the required settings. There's a port which is 3632, but we'll set the remote host equal to 10.200.0.47. Okay, so let's go ahead and exploit. Okay, so there's creating the connection and so on. And again, we should be able to get access to it. So daemon, there's our variables for set, pwd. Let's see if we can get into etc. There we go. And let's see if we can access the shadow file. Okay, so in this time we didn't get root access, but we have daemon access. So we can actually just move around like this. Okay, so the next one we're going to have a look at is with the an SMB share. As we've seen in another lab, we can use SMB to share, typically with a Windows machine. We can share a folder. But in this case, what we'll actually do is to be able to set it up so that it requires anonymous access to our share. And we want to connect to 10.200.0.47. Okay, we just put any old thing in there. Okay, just 10.200. Right, so what we'll do is that we'll look at our SMB share that we have that's typically used in Windows, and use it as a protocol to be able to mount remote shares. So what we'll do is we'll list the shares that are on our Metasploit instance. So go for that. Okay, we can put a username just off nothing there just now. Okay, so there we are. We have a share of temp. Okay, so that's a public share. So what we'll now do is we'll start up our Metasploit, and then we'll set up our share, and we'll mount a drive onto the temp share. And then we'll see if we can actually move around the file system. Okay, so what's going to happen is it's going to mount onto the temp share. It's going to mount the whole of the file system. Quite a scary thought that someone has shared a temp, and we're actually going to mount the whole of the file system there. Okay, so we'll just see if we can get our exploit. Okay, so that's the one here, and so we'll just grab that. Okay, and then what we'll do is we'll just paste that in. Okay, that works. Okay, you do your show options again just to make sure that you know what you're setting. So set the share of temp. So we're going to mount onto the temp folder, and we'll set our remote host equal to 10.200.0.47. And what we'll also do is that we'll set our SMB target to be my share. Okay, so then we'll go ahead and exploit that. There we go. Okay, so that's now created the whole root system. The whole root file system is now mounting on to temp. So it's taken the whole of the operating system, the whole of the file system, and put it onto temp. So from here we should be able to now log in, mount the share that we've created to 0.47. Okay, so here we are. Okay, so here we are. So what we can do is that we can go into the root fs folder, have a look in there. There's etc. Now we can cat our password. There we go. Okay, so there's the password file. Okay, so you can actually see that what we've done is we've actually mounted the whole of the file system onto our share that was created. Okay, so for the next one, we're using the MSRPC service and exploiting the SMB daemon. Okay, so we'll start up our Metasploit again, and then we just grab this one. Okay, so there's the CV number if you want to check it out, but it uses shell meta characters for the exploit. Okay, so set our remote host again, 10.200.0.47, and we should be good to go. Excellent. So there you go. Okay, so and so just let us see who we are. Oh, we're root. Okay, so we should be able to go to there. Cat password. There we go. And because we're root, we should be able to view the shadow file. There we go. Okay, so in this next part of the lab, what we'll do is we'll look at some weak passwords on Metasploitable. Okay, let's see if we can quit out there. There we go. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll run Hydra with some usernames. So I'm just going to create the user list from here. So we'll go ahead with the list that we have: user, Postgres, sys, klog, and service. Okay, and then we'll create our passwords. So I'll give you a hint that the passwords are the same name as the service and the same name as the users, so that we'll create our passwords list, and then we'll just go for the same username, klog, service 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 and Batman. Okay, so I'm going to run Hydra, and we're going to be using the user list and the password list. And we're going to be testing here, and let's do it with Telnet. Okay, so it just takes a minute. So it's found one, user and user, Postgres and Postgres, sys and Batman, klog and 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9, and service and service. We could do the same for FTP if you want, just to see if FTP works. FTP will be slower because it obviously needs to discuss and pass commands and things like that. And so it's found quite a few of them there. Okay, so now let's have a look at. So for the other passwords file, you should be able to find the other users in them. Okay, so for this, the next bit, what we'll do is we'll compromise the Java RMI service. It's quite a insecure service in places, so we'll just make life easy for ourselves, and then we'll just copy and paste it in there. Okay, so that's the first one there. We'll set our host, a remote host there, and then we'll set the port that we're going to use, the remote port that we're connecting to, and then we'll set our own local port. That's fine. Uses a server port, and that's our host. Going to deliver a certain payload. Okay, so we just go for 0.0.0.0, and our Kali instance. Let's have a look. Okay, so Kali instance is 206. So it's 10.200. 0.6, and let's have a look at our Metasploitable, and it's at 47. 10.200 0.47. Let's check that again. So .206. Okay, then we should be good to go now. There we go. So what we'll do is we'll start up our Metasploit framework. And let's also start up our Wireshark, because we're going to be capturing some network packets, and we'll have a look at the jar file that's transmitted. The jar file contains the Java code as part of the exploit. So get that started up while that's doing that. Okay, good. Let's go. Oops. So we didn't manage to get that copied. And okay, so that's it, sending the payload, sending the jar file there. Okay, and then we can look at our sessions that we have. So what we'll do is we'll have a look at the Wireshark trace first. And just stop that. Okay, so here we are. Yep. So let's find the first first connection, and it's there. Okay, so that connection doesn't actually go anywhere. And there we go. Okay, so there's the get. So what we can do is we can search for a get for there. It's connecting to port 8080, and here's what comes back. This is the jar file, which gets delivered to the server with the interpreter payload there. Okay, so that's the jar file. A PK file means that it's a zip file. So a jar file is really a zip file. If you want, you can extract the artifacts which are in the Wireshark trace. Okay, but that shows how we can actually analyze our trace there to see the jar file. Okay, so let's have a look at our sessions. So we've got one session that's there in the background, so we'll bring that to the front there. And so now we have a interpreter running on the metasploitable machine, and we can start to interact with it. Okay, so the interpreter gives us a whole command set that we can actually have a look at if we want. We can get our system info and so on, as we've seen from other labs. So there's a sysinfo, and then we can get our user ID, and we're root, that's good. And there we are there. Okay, so we can look at various things. But we'll have a look inside the etc. folder. So let's see if we can look at the contents of the password file. Okay, so what we see with the password file is that the X's represents that the hash isn't actually stored in here, it's stored in the shadow file. So we'll have a look at our shadow file. And there we go. Okay. So what we'll do is that we'll go and copy. So let's have a look to see if we can now make sure that our salt is working. Okay, so if you remember from a previous lab, we use OpenSSL to be able to check our salt. So I'm just going to choose a certain user. So let's choose the ones that we had before, and we'll choose service. Okay, so there is the salt. There is the salt there. Okay, so the hashing method is one, which is MD5 this time. Okay, so it's OpenSSL. We define it as a password hash. -1 is the method, not APR. Then we do minus salt, and then let's paste our salt in there. It's not pasting, just let me try and capture it. In fact, we'll go for user. Let's go for user. Okay, so if you remember, the password on user is user. So password of user with the salt, just let me check the salt is correct. That's great. And hopefully we should get the same same password, and we do. The same hash value, there it is there. And that's the same as we have there. Okay, so I'll just do another one just to show you how it's done. So there's klog. So we think, can't remember, we'll take Postgres one there. So I think the user name for Postgres, the password for Postgres is actually Postgres. Okay, so we paste the salt, and we think the password is Postgres, and there we go. Okay, so that works perfectly. Okay, so you can see that's working there. So now what we'll do is we'll just grab this whole lot here, fine, and then we'll copy, and then we'll just create a little password list file. Then we'll paste that in there, and pretty much good to go. Okay, so you might find that John stores some old hash values, so what I'm doing is just going to clean up just before we start, and then let's see if John the Ripper can actually find out. Remember, these are salted, so we usually think that salted hashed values are actually quite difficult to crack, but let's see what John thinks. And there we go, John has already found these ones: user, Postgres, service, and Batman. It's found Batman there. Okay, so it's not too difficult for John to actually find these passwords.